Modern dating is a failure. Why do we say that? We get to pick who we want. There's so many choices, there's so many ways to do it. And still, there's a lot of failure compared to the way it was in the past. So the question is, why do we have so much failure? Hey guys, welcome back to Funke Shares, where I like to talk about relationships and dating. It's finally going to be the book review that I talked about, which is Outdated by Pokluda. Excited about this book because there were so many lessons that I learned from it. If you look at this book on Amazon, it has a lot of good reviews too. So that just tells you how good the book is. So without further ado, let's get into this book review. Let's talk about modern dating. Modern dating is a failure. Why do we say that? Let's look at how dating kind of evolved. Because in Bible days, there wasn't really much of anything called dating. Mostly what we have is people arranging marriages in a way. If you look at the story of Isaac, how Abraham sent his servant to find him a wife, we can see that. He didn't even really have a lot of role to play in it. It was his father that made that decision to go find a wife, which is different from nowadays. Nowadays, we get to pick who we want. There's so many choices, there's so many ways to do it. And still, there's a lot of failure compared to the way it was in the past. So the question is, why do we have so much failure in modern dating? And some of the things that I saw from this book, and I think maybe at the same time, some of the things that I've seen is that people are dating for fun. It's like dating is like this new toy, like, oh, date for fun. And you know what happens whenever you get a new toy. I remember the one time that I got this precious gift from somebody, and it was something that I played with every single day. And after a while, like now I don't even know where to find it. If you're dating for fun, then it's fun until it's not. And you're basically treating people like objects, right? So people are dating for fun. People are playing games. There's a lot of games nowadays, and there's so many YouTube channels basically helping you to play the games. They're telling you what to say. They're telling you what the right things to say. They're telling you the right thing to do. People are trying before buying. It's like that saying, like, test drive. I remember watching this clip by a preacher. He said, people are saying, oh, I have to test drive. It's like you're comparing a relationship to a car. I have to test drive before I buy. And he said that he has never test driven a car that he kept for more than 20 years. If you test drive something, it doesn't really last as long as a marriage, because marriage is for life. You cannot test drive something that you want for life. And people are advocating living together before marriage, but I'll talk about that one later when I go through the code. And apps, oh my, there's so many apps nowadays, like even Christian apps, secular apps, is like, if there's so many apps and these were supposed to be the solution to all of our problems, it's like, okay, yeah, you can't find somebody to date. You should be able to find somebody to date in the apps. And people are just scrolling through pictures, like just scrolling through like clothing or shoes. Now the question is, if there's so many options, why is there no long-lasting relationships like we have? Why are there no fulfilling relationships like we've had in the past? And I'll talk about this one later when I go through the quotes as well. So I want to go through some of my favorite quotes. I already down to 6 because there were so many things I wanted to talk about in this video. So many lessons. And again, all these quotes are from Outdated by Pokluda. I just talked about dating apps. One of my favorite quotes from this book is how he responds to people asking him about dating apps. It's like people always ask him the question, and he basically said that people are not meeting offline. They're not meeting in church. They're not serving together and getting to know each other. That people have to go behind the wall of technology to find. But he, again, is saying, you know, it's not something that's against scripture. The Bible does not say anything against dating apps. But there's some issues with dating apps. Like we all know, like if you've dated through an app before, you've probably gone through some of these. And one of the ways is the way that people usually just swipe, right? And here's another quote that he had. If the main way people use the app is to look at profile pictures and swipe left or right based solely on whether they think that person is attractive, that's a terrible way to get a match. And that's you're going off of the way somebody looks. And that's how you're trying to tell if that's the way that you're going to talk to the person or not. But looks can be deceiving, right? Because he talks about it here, says if you're going to choose a profile picture, you're not going to pick just any photo of yourself. You're going to pick the best photo of yourself from your best angle with the perfect background, and usually from at least a couple of years ago. I know that's the reality. And we know most of the time, men usually complain about women. It's like, what? You don't look like your profile picture at all. And that's the reality with dating online. If you're picking people based on the way they look, just know that that's the best way that they'll probably ever look. And they probably never look the way that they look in that picture, right? And then he talks about the about me, right? Because people usually write, about me. This is the stuff about me, but are they really telling the truth? Here's another quote here. In all the other fields where people type in their about me and all those details and interests you will compare against your checklist, they will write whatever you think you want to hear. Like, how true is that? Like, people would just, I feel like dating app is just that place where people can just say whatever they want to, right? And he goes on to say, I don't care if his profile says he graduated from seminary. He loves Jesus with all his heart. And he cares for the widows and orphans. He could be a con man optimizing his keywords for a particular target market. And that's the reality. There's this group that I'm in called Are We Dating the Same Guy? And that group, what I've noticed is that they have like local versions. So that version of that group, Are We Dating the Same Guy, is for my community where I live. So if you're living in a different community like Dallas, you can see Are We Dating the Same Guy Dallas, Toronto, Are We Dating the Same Guy Toronto. And I think that's a really good place. So I joined the app just because I was interested in seeing some of the things that was going on like in modern dating. And I will encourage you, like, just join. Like, even if you don't want to know if you're dating a guy or any other person is dating, just join and see some of the crazy stories that go on. Most of the stories are from dating apps too, but some of the common ones are where somebody would basically just post a dating profile of a guy, right? Post this picture and he's about me. So in the about me, you will see something like, I'm looking for something long term. I'm looking for like marriage. I'm a cool guy. They'll basically write all the best qualities you can think of, but my emphasis is really on the part where they would say, I'm looking for a long-term relationship, I'm looking for marriage. And whenever they bring this profile, like a girl takes a screenshot and say, me and this guy were talking, I want to see if he's dating any other person. I want to say like 98% of the time, those guys are usually in another relationship. They're in another long-term relationship with someone else. And then the part where he says he's looking for a long-term, you find out that that's a lie too, because when he starts talking to this girl, most of the time, he's asking her for sex right away. He's saying, oh, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm just looking for like a fling. So you see that what people are putting on their profile online is totally opposite of the reality they're living in. And so that's one of the things I just wanted to bring out about dating apps. Again, it's not against the Bible to not do it, but you have to be like really, really led by God, because there's so many lies out there. If you're not led, you might be deceived easily. Okay, the next one is a Christian dating a non-Christian. I think this one it's talked about a lot. People think that it's something they can do. It's not going to cause any problems. I'm really amazed at the number of Christians that I know that got married to non-Christians. I mean, sometimes I used to wonder, did you really think about this? And he gave this quote, which I think is great. And the quote is that at the core, an unbeliever does not think like you. And whenever I go on X, I see a lot of atheists that are tweeting on there. And they always kind of look at Christians, people that are of low intelligence, people that cannot think for themselves. They usually just have a really bad outlook or overview of who a Christian is. So here's a quote that he put in. As a Christian, dating a non-Christian, the most important thing in your life is, in their mind, either a myth or a lie. To them, you're either deceived or crazy. To you, they are lost and destined for an eternity apart from you. You can never truly connect and achieve oneness in a marriage with that kind of foundation. And people will say things like, oh yeah, even if he's not saved, he's so much nicer, he's kinder, he gives, he's all these things. Even more than the Christians that I know. Like, the Christians I know are so mean, they're not nice, they're not kind. But here's this guy, he's not even a Christian, but he's so nice. So that's the reason why I would date him, or that's the reason why I would marry him. And like he just mentioned here, the core of that guy, he doesn't have a spirit that's alive because he's not saved. So if the spirit, which is the most important thing, is lacking, then why would you want to go ahead and marry someone like that? I don't care how nice he is, I don't care how much he gives to the poor. At the essence of it, the spirit is not aligned. And how can you agree in faith with that person if there's an issue? How do those two come together? How do you have your second person that will stand in agreement with you if you're dating somebody that's not saved? And that's the thing. In life, there's no guarantee that there will not be issues. And you need somebody that's going to go through battle with you, that's going to fight the battle with you, not someone that's just kind and nice, right? Okay, let's go to my third quote here. which is talking about playing games. And I talk about playing games is playing mind games, right? And I've experienced this in relationships where people are just playing mind games. And if you look around, like there's so many teachers, so many people teaching you how to play the game. I was just surprised when I saw a lot of channels that are dedicated to men, teaching them how to basically play with women's mind. And one thing he said in this book is like, these things like manipulation, the reason why it's so popular is because it works. It does work. Like if you manipulate somebody, you play games, it will work in the short term. But is that what you're really looking for? Are you just looking for short-term wins, or are you looking for a long-term win? At the end of the day, it depends on what you want. But let's look at this quote here that he had on playing games. This one's really funny because I feel like I've experienced this one. Waiting an arbitrary long period of time before calling or texting someone back is a subset of that, because it shows you're not too eager or interested in the other person. And then you ghost them for a calculated amount of time and take joy in seeing their frantic texts checking in. Then when they go silent, you reach back out to keep the game alive. That is messed up and it's not loving. Some people play games by pretending to be someone they're not. They figure out what the other person is looking for in a mate, and then they falsely act like they are that kind of person. I've sadly seen this in churches with people who show up and try to give the impression they're Christians when actually they're predators trying to attack a particular kind of prey. Like I said, I feel like I've experienced both of these. The one where somebody just goes silent for a while. I remember this one, I was like, wait, is this person alive or are they dead? So people do this. It's a game where, they're texting you, and then they just stop. They just go dead silent, and then they come back. So people play games. And here's what he says to people that play games. He says, if you're a game player, here's the truth. You don't realize it, but playing games is what has made you the insecure person you are. You've taught yourself to believe that people won't be attracted to your true self. And that's it. And that's the one thing that I wish that people that play games realize. So you're basically saying that your true self is not good enough. The way that you are is not good enough. You have to pretend to be someone you're not. And then when the person that you're dating falls in love, they don't fall in love with the real you. They fall in love with the you that you were presenting. Because in your mind, you think that the real you is not good enough. And here's the thing. If the real you is not good enough, why don't you work on that real you rather than trying to get something that the real you will not get, if that makes sense. If you feel like this girl will not accept you because you're not saved or because you're living in sin, why don't you try and fix that? And then you would attract the right girl instead of presenting a false self and letting the girl fall in love, breaking her heart, and maybe in the end, long run too, you get hurt somehow. And this is the solution, he says. Be honest, don't lie. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. Pretend to be feeling something you're not. Or use tricks to try to fool someone. Don't start a relationship based on fraud. I think that's just crazy. Because if you, let's say you even win in a way, like you get that person to marry you, that's a marriage that's based on a false foundation anyway. So let's talk about the next one, which is living together before marriage. I've seen a lot of Christians say this, that living together before marriage prepares you for marriage. Actually, there's these two girls that I follow on YouTube, and one of them, she actually ended up living with the guy that she wasn't married to, and she was saying, oh yeah, I need to live with somebody to know their character before I marry them. And so, like I say, that girl's a Christian. I think she ended up breaking up with that guy, and they lived together. So basically, living together is practicing marriage, right? You're not married yet, but you're acting like you're married. A lot of times people would, they'll even get mortgages together, they'll get leases together, and they're not married yet. So one of the points that he was making in this video is that when you live together, it really becomes very hard to break up that relationship. Like it comes with more scars than you wouldn't have had if you were not living together. So first of all, living together and sleeping together is sin. It's a sin against God because you're basically committing fornication, which is against the will of God. And sometimes I think people think that whenever God gives commandments, like whenever God says don't do this, is because God is trying to deny them or something. They don't usually see it as something that's for their good. They think that sometimes people think that you're smarter than God and they could do these things and there will be no consequences. But anyways, people do say that if you live together before marriage, you get to know the person and then you decide if that's the person that you want to be with or not. But he gave an example here of a couple that were living together and then they got married and she didn't realize how much debt that the guy has. So they were living together, but basically there was a lot of focus on physical intimacy more than actually getting to know the person, like in debt. But he gave some interesting statistics here on people that live together, because you would think that, you know, the longer they live together, the longer the marriage will last, right? That makes sense naturally. But that's not always the case. I remember hearing about this couple. I can't remember who the couple is, but it's a celebrity couple. They were popular at some point, but they dated for 20 years. Can you imagine dating someone for 20 years? And then they got married and the marriage didn't even last a year. Let's hear what he has to say about living together and what studies have shown. So he says here, as many studies have consistently shown over time, people who live together before marriage are more likely to divorce. They experience less satisfaction in marriage, spend less time together, are less dedicated to the marriage, and are less confident about its success. They also experience higher rates of negative communication, adultery, and domestic violence. Basically, when you cohabitate first, everything you want to go up in marriage goes down, and everything you want to go down goes up. It's interesting. Like, you would think that if you live together, you definitely know this person, you're sure about this is what you want, but that's not always the case, because like I said, when you live together with somebody, especially when you have a lot of shared things, it feels like, okay, the next best thing is just to get married, because we're basically married, right? Just without the license, the way they say it. But most of the time, people don't get married because they found out that, yes, this is the one, or this is, I'm pretty sure. They get married because that's just it just makes sense to do. It's just a rational thing to do, because now already living together, things together, sometimes people already have children together too. But another interesting thing is that whenever you move in, as a woman, whenever you move in with the man and you're doing all these things together, there's no motivation to take it to the next step for the man especially. And he says it in the book. He says, cohabitation isn't a precursor to marriage, it's a replacement for marriage. It removes most of the motivation for getting married. This is especially true for men, whereas women think of cohabitation as a positive step towards marriage. The men they are living with are less likely to have marriage as an end goal. It's a classic example of the old saying, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Yeah, and I remember I shared something like this on my Instagram, where this girl was saying, oh, my boyfriend and I, we've been dating for 9 months and we decided that we were going to move in together. And then I asked him if he had any intention of getting married, and he said no. Good thing that she asked. But yeah, what's the motivation? Like, if I'm already getting everything I need, you're already cooking, you're sleeping with him, you're doing everything that a wife does, what's the point of taking you to the wife level? But that's it, definitely. And some people come with the argument that we're living together, but we're not sleeping together. We're living in separate bedrooms, but in the same house, but we're not sleeping together. First of all, that increases the temptation more. Like, if you were living separately, you would have less temptation than if you're living together. And if you feel like you need to reduce the rent because the rent is so high, especially in big cities, you can get a roommate. Like, you don't have to live with the person that you want to marry. If you're a Christian and you're living together before marriage, you're not portraying a good example, because if people look at you, or you and your boyfriend are living together, people can assume anything, and you can't explain to everybody that you're not having sex. People will make their own judgments. And thirdly, which is one thing that I found interesting, is he said that you're practicing living with your future spouse without having sex, which is interesting. Like, if you can live with somebody that you want to get married to for a year or 2 years and you don't have sex, then in marriage, it's really, really hard for you to change that mindset where now we're married, we need to have sex as a married couple, like what married couples do. So I think that's interesting, but let me know what you think about that. That if you're living together with somebody that you're not married to, and you're a couple, you end up getting married. It's hard to switch, but that's interesting. But basically, it's a pretend marriage in a way, because this is a temporary thing that you're hoping that we're going to get out of and get into marriage. But you've already done everything that you would do in marriage anyways, but it's still temporary, right? Because marriage is the permanent thing. If you're already living together, you don't get to experience that. God's design, what God designed originally for the bride and groom. So the next one I want to talk about is the one. There's that belief, when you meet the one, you live happily ever after. Like, the one, it would just be something that you would know. It's a feeling. And when you meet that person, it doesn't matter if you were even dating someone else before. So Hollywood has kind of romanticized cheating, where you see this couple in a committed relationship, and probably on the day of the marriage, on the day of the marriage is when she decides, there's somebody else that I love, I don't love you because that person is the one, it's not you. And so Hollywood has kind of romanticized cheating. So I remember seeing the Twin Flame documentary. I don't know if you guys have seen it. A girl, most of the time it was girls, right? They see this guy that they're attracted to. Then they think, oh yeah, he might be my twin flame, but let's go ask the leaders, the people that are in charge of the Twin Flame universe. And most of the time they come back and tell them, yes, that's definitely a twin flame. And so they're doing all these things. They encourage them to like keep on reaching out, to keep on texting them. It's like harassment where you're just like texting, calling, like you're so convinced that this person is the one for you, and they keep on harassing these people. And some people had to even like file injunctions to keep them away, like stay away from me. And some people even had to go to jail because these twin flame creators or bosses, they were encouraging people that, yeah, that's the one for you. You have to make sure that you get that person, even though that person was already in a committed relationship. And so we see that there's that myth of the one, this person is the one, this is the one I'm destined to be with. And you see a lot of times people, when they believe this, they end up staying in an abusive relationship where people are hitting them because they believe that, yeah, no matter what, this is the one, I have to stay because this is the one that has been created for me from the beginning of the universe, right? So he says, believing in the soulmate fairy tale can keep you stuck in some very bad relationships and lead to a very unfairy tale ending. So the result then, whenever people believe that, they may be in a relationship with somebody and they may feel like, okay, because they're not feeling a certain way, they don't feel like they don't have that feeling, they get disappointed or they get dissatisfied. So people get dissatisfied with a real lifelong relationship when they realize their spouse isn't perfect. Marriage takes work to be successful and the initial spark fades away. They see this as evidence that the person they married is not the one after all, because if they were the one, the relationship would be easy, exciting, and perfect. They become delusioned and lose interest. And when someone new comes along and they again feel that initial excitement, they think that surely this person is the one. And that's why you see people like they just go from one relationship to another. It's like they get that feeling, and then when the feeling is gone, it's like, okay, goodbye, on to the next. But that's not God's design, really. Relationships, they take work. And it's not just about feeling. You have to get to know the person, know what their values are, if they align with you, if they're saved, and if you're committed to the walk with God. Another interesting thing that I found in this book is that he said, and I've been thinking about this for a while, it's like, this women and men back and forth, where men are saying, we're asking women out and they're saying no. Like, women are breaking our hearts and they're treating us bad, right? And women are saying, the men are not asking us out. Where are the men? Where are the good men? Like, how can the men be saying that women are saying no to them and they're treating them bad, and the women are saying that the men are asking them out? What's the problem here? So he found that the men are asking out the same women. So men are basically asking out the hottest, the most beautiful women. That's where the men are focused on, right? And so these women that are like 10% of the general population of women, they have all these offers, right? So many guys are asking them out. So you have to choose among all the guys, you have to choose the best, right? And so the other men are disappointed. He says, yeah, but look at the other girls, you're neglecting the other girls because you want to go for like the most beautiful. And so this is the advice that he gives to men. He says to men, if you're a Christian man and you've worked on all your issues, you've worked on your addictions, if you have any in your life, you basically clean up your life, right? Go and find the godliest woman that you know and ask her out. I mean, that's basically simple, right? And if you go on the date, it was a good day, you enjoyed it, ask her out again for a second date. And that's how you progress in a relationship, right? And if you're a woman and you're a Christian, you're saved, you're committed to following God, and you've cleaned up yourself, you're worked on your bad habits, bad characters, and you see a guy that you're interested in, let him know. But he says this is optional too, right? Because he's not all for women approaching men. If you read the book, like, he gives some examples that men can become passive when the woman is the one that's leading it. But you can let him know that's optional. But if a godly man asks you out on a date, you should say yes and go on the date. So godly man says, would you like to go out on a date with me? say yes. Go on the date, talk to the guy. If you like him, then if he asks you out on the second date, go. But if you don't like him, don't ghost him or don't lie and say, oh, my dog died or whatever, I can come. Just tell him, let him know. And if there's something that there's a reason why, maybe something you see, let him know so that he can work on it. And so that's his advice. That's how he thinks that people can get to know each other and get to know people through community, through serving together, volunteering in church, those kind of things. That's the way that he advises people to get to know each other. So yeah, guys, that's all I had for the book. Like I said, this book had a lot of great advice for dating, modern dating, and some of the things that go on. I feel like he was really spot on a lot of things because I did go through some of the things here too. So great book. I would say go check it out. When I read this book, the first time I listened to it, Audible, and he narrates it. So he does a good job of narrating it because you can hear the emotions, kind of like you can really get the message when you hear him narrating the book. But this time I bought it on Kindle because I wanted to make notes and I wanted to like get some of my favorite quotes. But yeah, great book. Let me know if you've read the book and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I hope that you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye. What shall I render? Tell me what can I offer to you? How can I say that I'm grateful?